All of the Earth's ecosystems have been significantly affected by human activities, especially since the second half of the 20th century. And one of the most significant changes is the loss of coral reef areas. Coral reefs, or sometimes called the rainforests of the sea, are ecosystems below water characterized by corals. Reefs are formed of colonies of coral polyps and held together by calcium carbonate. A journal from One Earth found that the diversity of species on coral reefs has dropped by more than 60%, and the total reef cover around the world had approximately halved, accompanied by a similar fall in services that the ecosystem provides for human populations. It was partly because coral reefs are sensitive to weather conditions. They are under global threats such as rising temperatures and ocean acidification, which makes the water condition bad, and as a result, their growth rate might be reduced. They are also under local threats such as overfishing, destructive fishing practices, sedimentation, and pollution from land-based sources. These are all from humans.
Almost up to 88% of coral reefs in Southeast Asia are now endangered. Half of those reefs either at high or very high risk of disappearing, which directly affects the biodiversity and survival of species dependent on coral reefs. In archipelagic nations such as Samoa, Indonesia, and Philippines, fishermen increasingly use cyanide and dynamite in fishing, which further degrades the coral reef ecosystem. This perpetuation of bad habits simply leads to the further decline of the coral reefs and therefore perpetuates the problem.
Let's take Indonesia's condition as a study case. Indonesia is the largest archipelagic nation in the world, with a coastline stretching over 95,000 kilometers around more than 17,000 islands. An extensive group of coral reefs protects these islands. Brook, a senior associate in the World Research Institute, wrote in her book Risk at Risk in Southeast Asia, or RRSEA, that Indonesia has approximately 51,000 kilometers squared of coral reefs. This number does not include areas that have not been mapped or subsurface reefs. If this conservative estimate is accurate, 51% of the region's coral reefs and 18% of the world's coral reefs are found in Indonesian waters.
Coastal and marine industries, oil and gas production, transportation, fisheries, and tourism account for 25% of Indonesia's GDP and employ a quarter of the country's workforce. Although coastal communities have long sustainable extract marine resources, population growth has increased pressures on Indonesia's coral reefs. There are more than 480 species of hard coral and over 1,650 species of coral reef in eastern Indonesia. However, Indonesia's rich supplies of coral reefs are once again endangered by humans. Even in protected regions, cyanide and bass fishing are widely used throughout the archipelago. In the Maluku Island, evidence of bomb damage was found in almost 65% of surveys. The most severe threats are overfishing and destructive fishing, which are respectively threatening 64% and 50% of Indonesia's coral reefs. Despite the short-term profits, researchers have revealed the blast and poison fishing have enormous economic costs. Endangered fish may be killed, causing our ecology to become unbalanced. Poisoned fish may find their way onto your dinner table. Consider how dreadful this may be. As can be shown, Indonesia may face a financial loss in the next 20 years. According to RRCEA, the net economic loss in Indonesia as a result of less fishing is estimated to be in the billions of dollars.
Actually, there are so many things that we can do to stop this, but how? For example, to stop this endangering cycle, we need to educate the local community about why conservation of marine species is important. Once the local communities fully understand the personal stakes at risk, then they will be aware and will therefore to preserve the reefs. Conserving coral reefs has many benefits such as economic, social, and ecological, not only for the people who live on the endangered coral reef islands, but for people throughout the world as well. What are our contributions to maintain the coral reefs ecosystem?
We have raised about awareness about the importance of coral reefs through social media and reaching out to volunteers. First, we collaborated with a non-profit organization called Terangi, which stands for Terumbu Indonesia, which focuses on the conservation and sustainable management for Indonesia's coral reef resources. The organization reaches out to the public through social media, becomes a mandate holder for coral reef rehabilitation in the Kepulauan Seribu, and more. You can also help them raise funds for coral reefs on the kitabisa.com website.
Second, we promoted their work through our social media and spread awareness about coral reefs. Our social media posts also inform people about the importance of coral reefs. This is because of a lack of understanding and education about how crucial coral reefs are to our well-being. Third, we also take part of the smallest movement that we can do, such as throwing garbage in its place, because when it falls into an irrigation or river, in the end, they will still flow into the sea. As a young generation, we can also take part by using eco-friendly stuff such as tote bag rather than plastic bag or stainless straw rather than plastic straw.
Have you ever thought about how to conserve coral reefs? A foreigner named Lawrence's mother decided to conserve coral reefs in Wakatobi, Southeast Sulawesi. Lawrence felt that if the coral reefs weren't conserved and not well taken care of, it would be a setback. So he decided to make Wakatobi Diving Resort to conserve and take care of the coral reefs there. It started by one person who cares about the ecosystem, even if it's not his own country, creating a big impact on the conservation of the coral reefs.
It's quite sad that the majority of people still don't care about coral reef conservation. The loss of coral reef areas has a big impact on the sea ecosystem. It threatens a lot of sea creatures that rely their lives on coral reef. Furthermore, it also has a domino effect on other aspects like the existence of protected rare species who maybe our next generation won't be able to see it if we are not starting to care. It doesn't just stop there, it's just beginning of the misery. It will affect human life too, because a lot of people still rely their life on the water ecosystem. So if we are not starting to care, it will destroy the whole ecosystem. We don't have to be like Lawrence, who made an extreme act by creating a resort in Wakatobi to conserve coral reefs. We can start by supporting organizations who focus on coral reef conservation, and we can start by promoting through our social media to raise society awareness about coral reef conservation. Because we believe that Indonesia doesn't lack of smart people, but lacks of people who care about their environment. So let us start. If you are not start, so who will?